Hello and welcome to today's presentation of SQL Server maintenance plans. My name is Ray Cameron and I'm a part of the Extivia team. I'm here with Kathleen Meadows, a senior DBA here at Extivia. Good morning, Kat.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for doing this today.
Thanks for having me.
For the audience, if you're new to Extivia, we just want to let you know we offer a variety of enterprise technology solutions and services, which include business intelligence and data warehousing, portal development, and data management, as well as application development. You can find out more about all those offerings at extivia.com, and we have a screen up that you can scan through just in the next few seconds before we turn things over to Kat. During the webinar today, please note that there is a questions panel within the GoToWebinar control panel, and you're welcome to pose a question at any time during the webinar. We will wait till the end of the webinar and try and address as many of those as we can. Our presenter today is Kathleen Meadows. She's made this presentation several times in person, and it was such a hit we asked her to bring it to our webinar series. So, Kat, I'm going to turn things over to you, but I think you probably got some information to introduce yourself a little bit more.
I do, yeah. Hopefully everybody can hear me and stuff. Just a little bit more about me. I've been a database administrator since 1998, working with SQL Server all the way back in the old versions of 6.5, and been working with it since then. I have a little bit of Oracle experience in my past as well, but I've chosen to primarily focus on SQL Server. And as I said, I work for Extivia, and I'm part of the virtual DBA team here for supporting SQL Server. And I've been the president of the Colorado Springs SQL Server user group for about 4 years now, and I've actually been on the board itself for around 10 years. My working experience goes all the way from the dot-coms and manufacturing to local government and also consulting in the private industries. We have a couple of polls that we want to start out with today, so that way I know basically where your level of experiences are with using the maintenance plans. So can we go ahead and get those started, Ray?
Yeah, let's go ahead and put those up. And I'll go ahead and put the first one up here and launch that. So the first poll is, have you ever used SQL Server maintenance plans? Just a simple yes or no. And we've got most people have responded, so we'll just a couple more seconds here. We'll close this poll out. So, Kat, looks like 75% of our audience is a yes. They've used SQL Server maintenance plans, and 25% no.
Okay, great.
And you want to do the second poll?
Yes, please.
Great. So the second one is, do you use standard tasks or custom scripts? Got a lively audience today. They're chiming right in, and we've just about got everybody who's answered. Looks like just a few more here. Great. And same breakdown as the first poll. 75% answered the first one, standard tasks, and then 25% for custom scripts.
Okay, great. Thank you. That kind of helps me get an understanding of where people are at and what their knowledge is and stuff of the maintenance plans. So I know a little bit more on how to kind of focus the presentation. Okay, I think, Ray, unless there's anything else, I think we can go ahead and get started. I guess we're good to go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks. So today's presentation, as I said, is going over the maintenance plans that SQL Server offers you, and just kind of a general overview of it. You know, the maintenance plans are there to help support routines that we use in SQL Server to kind of make the system happy. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can do with the maintenance plans, including backups and integrity checks, and rebuilding, reorganizing your indexes. And I'm just going to kind of go through what I have listed here on the screen. Really are some of the different tasks that are built in already for you with SQL Server. One of the big questions that comes up is whether or not to use SQL Server maintenance plans. Some of the reasons for the pros for us to use maintenance plans is the ease of use. Microsoft's made it really easy. There's just kind of a drag and drop GUI environment that you can drop onto a screen to be able to go through and do simple maintenance plans and stuff on your system. And they work great for non-critical systems, and it covers the basics of what you need to be working on. And the same thing too to use is something is better than nothing. A lot of times people say they don't want to use maintenance plans because there's very little control over what you can do unless you're starting to use the standard, use your own scripting and stuff that you create. And a lot of people say that they're not great for more complex systems. So if you're dealing, like with the data warehouse that's a couple terabytes in size, the built-in SQL Server maintenance plans may or may not be the best thing for you, but it's really something you have to kind of judge in your environment. So as we go through this presentation, I'll kind of point out what the limitations are when you use just the standard tasks that are a part of the maintenance plans and how you can possibly customize it a little bit for your environment. So the basic, starting out creating maintenance plans and stuff like that, it's really helpful if you give your maintenance plan a meaningful name. A lot of times when I'm working on systems and everything, I'll just see maintenance plan 1, maintenance plan 2, maintenance plan 3. And that really doesn't give the person that is going to be supporting it and troubleshooting your system a lot of information of what the maintenance plans are doing unless they open it up and kind of dig in and look into the details. So giving your maintenance plan a meaningful name is kind of the first basic step, and then also giving a description of what the maintenance plan is doing. And you also have the ability to manage connections. Just because you create a maintenance plan on one SQL Server, it doesn't mean that that's the only SQL Server that it is doing the maintenance on. You can actually connect over to other SQL servers and run your maintenance plans on those. Really important area is the reporting and logging feature. This really helps people troubleshoot when there's issues going on inside of your maintenance plans. So I'm going to go ahead and actually go into my first demo. And this is just really kind of going over the GUI environment and stuff that SQL Server gives you for setting up maintenance plans. If you're not familiar and stuff with where maintenance plans are located, if you're connected and stuff to a SQL Server database, underneath management, there's a folder that's called maintenance plans. So this is kind of your GUI environment and stuff that you will be working with if you're going to be using SQL Server to create your maintenance plans. And just there's a couple of things that I'd like to point out. One of the first things is you can actually annotate your maintenance plans, put comments in here, and that's basically what I have right here. And to let you know, you actually have some control over not only your font style, making it bold, making it easier for people to use. So you can just come in here and actually modify and change it. This gives you the ability to be able to document what your maintenance plan is doing, especially if you have a little bit more complicated environments that are going on. To be able to add a sub-plan and stuff to your maintenance plan, all you have to do is hit the sub-plan button, and it'll come up and it'll sit here and ask you to give it a name. Again, naming is very important. It helps people be able to troubleshoot when things are going wrong, and also be able to go in and if they have to make any modifications to it if you add new items and stuff to your server. So it's really important stuff that you actually give a clear name to what is the subplan is actually doing. A description as well. And when you actually go through and create a new subplan, you can actually immediately go through and create a schedule if you actually want this to be running at a certain time. Very easy using scheduling, just like if you're going to be scheduling a job inside of SQL Server. That's what this will end up doing. You have the ability to do reoccurring, automatically when SQL Server starts, when the CPU becomes idle, or just having it run one time. And if you go down through here, your frequencies and stuff that you can choose, daily, weekly, monthly. You can choose for it to start on every, the first Friday of every month, what time you want to have it start out, which is located down here in this part of the screen. And then if you only want the maintenance plan to be able to run for, maybe a week, if you have something going on, stuff inside your data that you possibly want to just have something scheduled for 1 week and 1 week only, you can actually set not only a start date but an end date to where the maintenance plan will not run after that date has occurred. Another thing on the screen to kind of be aware of and everything like that is you have the ability to manage connections. This is where I was talking about, where you can either connect to the local server, or you can add a new connection, and you can actually in here enter in the information. You can give it its own name. And then down in here, you can actually tell which SQL Server and stuff that you want to connect to. So you can have all your maintenance plans run on a single database server, but it can go out and actually touch all the different SQL servers that are in your environment. The other button and stuff in this environment is very important to pay attention to. Initially, when you're setting things up, is this button right here, which is reporting and logging. Starting, I believe it was in SQL Server 2008, this is automatically turned on for you to where it will generate a text file report for you every single time your maintenance plans run. And this is the path and stuff that the report is written to. The reason why I bring this up is I've actually worked on systems to where people didn't realize that reporting and logging were happening in the newer versions of SQL Server. And all of a sudden their disk drives had filled up because these text files have been going for quite a while, and they weren't cleaning the files up, and we'll cover that a little bit later on and stuff inside the presentation of how you go through and clean up this location out on your hard drive to make sure you don't end up with 4 or 5 years worth of maintenance plan logging reports out on your hard drive. So that kind of gives you an idea and stuff about your GUI environment. If you look down here, these are all the basic tasks that Microsoft has actually set up for you. We'll be kind of walking through it. And as I said, the environment's very easy to use. If you want to create a backup task, all you do is just click on the backup task, drag it into your designer window, and release it. And it automatically puts the task for you onto your maintenance plan. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go a little bit back to the PowerPoint presentation now. Let me get back into presentation mode. All right, we'll try that again. There we go. So the first one of the standard tasks that I actually want to talk about is doing your database backups. Many people use the maintenance plans to run their backups on their systems. Some people then choose not to, and they use third-party tools like Veritas or items like that to do their backups of their SQL Server. And when you use the maintenance plans for SQL Server for doing your backups, again, the same questions come up. What you should be considering and stuff before you even create a maintenance plan for backups. What your time of recovery is. What, how much data can you afford to lose? How large are your database backups going to be? What recovery mode and stuff do you want your databases to be in, whether it be simple mode or full recovery mode? When you're going to be running your backups, if you're going to be doing an off-peak hours, or if you don't have off-peak hours, what time during the day would be the best time to run your backups, because it does put a bit of a load on the system, not too much, but some. And how frequent your data is updating. How does your data change inside of your database? Because there's multiple ways you can back up SQL Server, whether it's just a full backup, whether it's a file group backup, et cetera, transaction log backup. So those are all the things you still have to consider when using a maintenance plan. So in here, I kind of talk about the types of backups you can do. Maintenance plans support full backups, differential backups, and transaction log backups. They have it set up to where you can do a general maintenance plan that say backup every single database. You can choose just to do system databases, which includes master, model, MSDB. You can say to use any user-defined databases and stuff that are on the system. You can click a button for that and just say, okay, I just want to back up all my user databases. That one's kind of nice to have if you have a system where you don't have a lot of control of when people put databases and stuff onto your database server. If you're backing up all user databases, any new databases that get placed onto the server will automatically fall into your maintenance plan. Or you can go through and actually choose specific databases how you want to have them backed up. And again, I was saying, you can do a database backup, or you can do file group backups. You can choose whether or not your backups go to disk, to tape. You can actually tell it to back up your databases to multiple locations, and whether or not you want to overwrite and append your backup files. So pretty much all the different options that you have if you write a transact SQL statement to do your backups, you have the ability to do a lot of those inside of the maintenance plans. Some other things it has is whether or not you want to automatically create a new folder for every database backup, or you have them all in the, in a central location. And it does have the ability to go through and verify that the backup file, which is kind of nice, and whether or not you want to compress or not compress your backups. That's also a useful function. So I'm going to go back into the demos. can pull up. I'm going to show you a couple examples and stuff of database backup maintenance plans. So on this maintenance plan and stuff that I created, we have a couple of things I want to note. Again, is showing that I have the descriptions here and everything, and here I have already gone against my standard of what is plenty for basic practices of giving it a meaningful name. But I'm going to go ahead and I pulled 2 tasks and stuff out onto the server. I'm going to go ahead and open this one up. And this one basically is showing that I'm choosing to do a full backup of the database. And if you use this drop-down list here, you can actually see I can choose full, differential, or transaction. I chose to do a full backup. And underneath this item right here, this is what I was telling you about, where you can actually choose whether you want to back up every database, just your system databases, and all your user databases, or specifically specific databases. So if you actually click on this radio button, you can actually go through and just kind of click on which ones that you want to back up. This item right here, you have a text box that basically says ignore databases when the state is not online. This way it'll keep your maintenance plan from failing if you have a database that goes offline. You also have the ability to check, backups that will expire, after 14 days on a specific date. Normally if you have these as reoccurring maintenance plans, you want to use the option of after, and you can actually change this option to whatever fits your business environment. And again, you can choose to back up either to disk or to tape, but just by using this radial button. And if you want to back up your database across, across more than one file, you can actually select this. You can do add, and you can, put where you want to have your destination on your disk to be at. If the backup file exists, you can choose to append, or you can choose to overwrite. This again is, what you've decided and stuff from your business environment. Then you can actually choose right here, if you create a backup for every database, so if you've selected multiple databases for this, you can actually choose for it to create a subdirectory for each of the databases, and you can tell it where you want your backup files to go. The nice thing about this is it organizes all your backup files into either underneath a folder MSDB, master, model, user database defined and everything like that, which definitely makes it easier when you're trying to find your backups when you're having to do a restore. This button checkbox right here is very important. Verify your backup integrity. This way, it'll at least go through and verify the file itself. It does a quick integrity check inside of with T-SQL statement to verify that your backup file has passed an integrity check. It will not guarantee that if you try to restore from that file that it's not corrupt in some way, but at least does an initial check of your system. And cancel. And then here I have a second one that's actually showing a transaction log backup and doing it of all databases and telling it to go to disk and creating subdirectories for, creating a backup file for every database. I have this third demo here. This is full backup and transaction logs. This is more of an idea and stuff of how you can do maintenance plans. Some people choose to do an individual maintenance plan, one for a full backup, one for transactional backup, one for differential backup. You can actually create one maintenance plan called database backup maintenance, and inside of there create sub-plans for the different backups and stuff that you choose to do. And the nice thing about it is each sub-plan can have its own schedule of when it runs. So this first subplan does a full backup of all the user databases. So in here, full backup, all user databases, backups will expire after 7 days, creating the different directories and verifying the backup. And that one is actually, you can have it scheduled to have its own schedule of daily, and you have it happen at, at midnight. Then the second subplan in here is actually going through and doing just a backup of all your system databases. So in here I've chosen to do all system databases and setting the properties that I need for that. And then going through and I'm doing transactional backups and everything for user databases and another separate one for the system databases. Some people choose to have MSDB in full mode, and they want to keep track of their transaction logs, backing up their transaction logs in their MSDB databases, especially if that MSDB database is keeping track of a lot of information. Like you have a lot of jobs that are happening, you have replication that's going on and stuff. You want to keep a history of all that information, they'll choose to back up the transaction log. Okay, And all this third demo is and stuff like that is actually to show that you can do a full backup of your maintenance plan or of your databases, and then you can choose to actually do differential backups, which, as I said, all you have to do is come down through and do a differential backup in the drop-down list, and then you can set your transaction log backup. One thing I'd like to kind of point out in demo number 2 that I did that I didn't actually go through. Oh, well, that's not very happy. Sometimes that does happen. A lot of maintenance plans that I see dealing with backups, it'll go through, it'll do a full backup of your database, and the very next step will be a transaction log backup, and that's the entire schedule that they'll have. So one time, once a day, that they'll do a full backup of their database, and as soon as that ends, they'll do a transaction log backup, which unfortunately that makes it to where you basically have a full backup and you have one transaction log backup, and you're not doing any more transactional backups throughout the day. So this is one thing to kind of note not to do. Definitely have your transaction log backups on a different schedule as your full backups, so that way you're getting your transaction logs backed up throughout the day. Okay, so back to here. Another thing that you can do inside of your maintenance plans is you can actually run custom SQL scripts. This really gives you the ability to be able to customize your maintenance plan. So if the basic task that Microsoft presents to you does not meet your needs, you can actually write your own scripts and have the maintenance plans run your scripts. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up that demo. And all this is basically I went down here, and again, using the toolbox that's over here on the left-hand side, all you have to do is grab this execute transact SQL statement script, drop it onto the screen, double-click it, and in here, any SQL statement that you can, any transact SQL statement you can write, you can actually put this into your maintenance plan. And you can do view T-SQL statement, and down here it'll actually show you exactly the SQL statement that SQL Server will run against your system. So here's just something very simple that I wrote for showing an execute of your transact SQL scripts. Basically this goes in and it truncates the table, and it sets identity inserts on the table, and it inserts the data from one table back into the table that you truncated, and then you set the identity insert back off again. You can use this, as I said, to manipulate data, and going through, I'll show you a couple more examples of when the basic task does not show you, does not give you the ability to be able to do what you want to do and customize it. You can actually create SQL scripts instead. So one of the nice things and stuff about the maintenance plans is that you can actually do your integrity checks on your system. I do apologize, I'm hitting the wrong buttons here. And so basically, if you choose to do an integrity check with the task, it runs the DBCC check DB with no information messages. So those are the exact information and stuff that I'll show you that in the maintenance plans that SQL Server will execute against your server. When you run the check DB, it runs your check allocate, it runs your check table, and it runs your check catalog. So, and basically an integrity check, it goes through and it validates the contents of every index view inside the database. It validates the link level consistency between all your tables, metadata, and your file system directories. And it validates your service broker data in the database. One thing to note, once I've seen that some people will run the check DB, but then they'll actually run the check allocate and the check table and the check catalog. And it's just basically for you to know when you run the check DB, it does those three things for you, so you don't actually have to have multiple steps. Temp DB is used in your integrity checks. So if you're wanting to know how much space is going to be needed in your temp DB database, you can actually run it with estimate only, just so you get an idea of how much temp DB is going to be used when you run your integrity checks. One thing to kind of note and stuff that Microsoft put out there is that for best practices, that they recommend that you use the physical only option when you're doing integrity checks on production systems. This is a good thing to note because actually when you run the task that is generated and stuff from the maintenance plan itself, it does not give you that option. So this is sometimes when you would want to write your own custom SQL script instead. So I'm going to come back out here and show you the integrity check. So on this one and stuff, I basically came over here and I pulled the check database integrity task. That's all I did to actually create that and stuff onto the screen. And just to show you, basically I said check the integrity of all databases, and I wanted to include indexes. And here in connection, if I had multiple servers connected, I could actually choose which server I want to be connected to. Here I'm just doing local. On this part of the screen right here, I'm showing you exactly what SQL Server has in the SQL code that it's written behind the screen. It's just basically doing a straight check DB, on all the databases with no information messages. And if you want to do it without indexes, that's what the second one is for. And all it is you just uncheck the checkbox that says include indexes. And then what it actually issues against the system are the SQL statements that are right here on the right-hand side, basically the check DB, name of the server, and it puts the no index on the end of it. Again, though, as you see, this does not actually even follow what Microsoft says is best practices. So instead, what you can do is go down and create a custom SQL statement task, which is what I've done here. And you actually can physically write, type in and stuff, check DB on this database with the physical only option. So you do have the ability to customize it yourself so you can follow even Microsoft's best practices for it. Another thing that you can do with maintenance plans is working and stuff with your indexes. There's two different things that you want to do with your indexes. Either you want to reorganize them, or you want to rebuild them. And basically, reorganize just reorganizes and stuff how the data is stored inside of the index, and a rebuild actually drops your index and recreates it, and then you can choose whether or not it's online or not, depending on which version of SQL Server that you're using. The best practices and stuff has been stated that if you query the sys.dm_db index physical stats view, you can do that actually for each one of your indexes. And you're interested in the thing for, excuse me, if it's 5% or less, you don't want to do anything to that index. If it's between 5% and 30%, it's fragmentation that is basically saying that you want to reorganize it. This is kind of a rough estimate that's given by Microsoft. They say this is best practices. Some people choose to do if it's less than or equal to 20% instead. They will choose to do a rebuild instead of, or do reorganization. If it's greater than 20%, then they'll choose to do a rebuild as well. And again, you can rebuild on or offline depending on which version of SQL Server that you're doing. And reorganizing is always online. So I want to give you some examples and stuff of dealing with indexes in maintenance plan. The first one I like to show is actually a bad index maintenance plan. This is something that I see quite a bit on people's systems. The first thing they do is they choose to rebuild all the indexes on their database server. And then the very next step that they have inside of their maintenance plan is to then reorganize. This is double duty and more overload and stuff onto your system that you actually need to have going on. And again, Microsoft basically stated that if your fragmentation is between 5 and 30%, all you want to do is just reorganize your index. And if it's greater than 30%, then you want to rebuild. So this maintenance plan here is just a kind of a standard task. If you can go through and choose, you can just say, okay, I just want to rebuild all of my indexes. And this says keep the indexes online while re-indexing. And below here, it actually shows some of the code and stuff that it actually will execute against the server as it goes through and does your rebuild. And I have the schedule on this one to say, okay, I'm going to rebuild all my indexes on a weekly basis. And then I have a second subplan in here that basically does the reorganization of the indexes. And I basically want to reorganize all my indexes. And I have this one scheduled to occur Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of the week. So this is kind of, this helps you on smaller systems to where at least you're reorganizing your indexes on a daily basis, and then you rebuild them on a Sunday when your system possibly is underneath less load. And then over here on the left-hand area, here are the two different tasks that I used inside of the maintenance plan, the rebuild index and the reorganize index. And all I did was just drag and drop them onto the screen. You can, as I said, customize your index maintenance plan. And all this is, again, using the T-SQL script task. It goes through, and this one is just like an example of using the master database. And I'm actually going to copy this code out into a different screen so it's a little bit easier for you guys to read. That basically all it does is it goes through, it queries and stuff, again, that the DM view of the physical stats, and it checks to see, where the average fragmentation, is less than, actually that's greater than, so that's the rebuild, but, it's less than 30%. Then it basically states, goes through and actually rebuilds a list of the indexes. So it inserts into a table and says put everything in there and stuff where it's less than 30%, and then it'll go through and actually rebuild the indexes for me. Then for reorganize, exact same code, but again it deals right down here where the average fragmentation in percents is between 5 and 30. It'll go through and actually execute against the system the code to be able to reorganize my indexes versus rebuilding them. Okay, another thing that you can do inside of your maintenance plans is also update your statistics. Basically, your statistics are the distribution of how your data is stored inside of your SQL Server. So a lot of times when you should run update statistics is if you've done a large data insert into a table or you've deleted a lot of data and stuff from your table. Then you need to run update stats to find out whether or not you're, to run the update stats to put your statistics back in order so that way SQL Server knows how to create the best execution plan for the data that's inside of the system. There's a couple of things that you can, do inside of it and stuff. You can do DBCC show stats. Will give you an understanding of how your statistics are laid out and stuff for your SQL Server right now. You can do filter statistics, where basically you want to say for these 3 columns, create statistics for me based upon that, because you know that those 3 columns are always used inside of your where clauses for your query. Things to keep in mind, keep auto update statistics and stuff on side of your database. Recognize that when you do the auto update statistics, that is only updating statistics on a single column inside of your table. If you need to have, as I said, more than 1 column of statistics stored together and stuff to help for the optimization of your queries, you need to create your own statistics instead of just relying on the auto update statistics inside of SQL Server. Again, you have the ability to say, I want to update stats on all databases, just system databases or user databases. You can, choose all tables, views, or both. And if you choose table or view, then you can actually even go down to if you have individual tables or individual views that you want to rebuild or run update stats on, you can actually do that on a regular basis. SP updates statistics. This store procedure, it'll help you, will help when you use your update stats task. If it's taking too long, you can actually use this store procedure instead. Just one thing to note, that it kind of uses the information that is stored in system indexes to understand how many rows have been modified since the last time the statistics were updated. Just so things you are, index rebuilds and reorganizations, they don't change the distribution of your data. So just because you've rebuilt your indexes or reorganized your indexes does not mean that you need to do an update statistics task right afterwards. This is something that I kind of see a lot, that people assume if they've rebuilt their indexes or reorganized their indexes, the very next thing that they need to do is run update stats. One thing to kind of take note in SQL Server 2012, partition indexes, they don't update stats on their own when you create or rebuild. You actually have to issue the command against them. So that's just something that is unique to partition indexes in 2012. To be able to see the latest date for the statistics, I have the query and stuff here. Main thing to note, indexes have their own area that they keep track of for their statistics. And then if you're interested in something that is not an index, you can actually go through and pull the information from sys.stats. So sys.stats is really at your table level. The sys.indexes has the information for statistics on the indexes. Okay, so here's a maintenance plan and stuff that I've created and stuff to deal with statistics. And basically, I just went down here on my toolbox and everything, and I grabbed the update statistics task and dragged it over and dropped it onto my GUI environment. And on here, I've actually said I wanted to choose specific databases, so I said just on this database, just on cat test. And by the way, you can actually select multiple in here. You don't have to only select one. I want to go through. And then in here, you can actually then say I want tables, views, or tables and views. And I want to update all existing statistics, only the column statistics, only index statistics, and whether I want to do a full scan of the index or the table, or if I just want to do a sampling of it. Fairly simple. And then, by the way, if you're ever curious about the code and stuff that SQL Server writes and how I'm getting this code and stuff over here so I can show you what's being written, all you have to do is hit View T-SQL, and SQL Server will actually pop up exactly what SQL statements it thinks it's probably going to run against the system. They do put a little note on there. It may not be exactly what it runs against it, and if you're ever curious, you can actually put a profile or trace up on your server to actually see what is running behind the scenes when your maintenance plans are being executed. So again, just your update stats, it'll go through and it'll run update stats on, the tables and views that you've selected with full scan is what I chose for that one. But again, if you're finding that this is just taking way too long, I actually have the second subplan in here and everything that will actually execute the SP update stats. And basically I'm saying, okay, on my database, cat test, I want to just run this. And again, SQL Server uses its own internal calculation to say, okay, based upon the number of rows that have been modified, update the statistics on the system. And this can help you on stuff with performance if you're finding that your update statistics maintenance plan is taking too long. Another really important thing for dealing with maintenance plans is your cleanup tasks. So you've gone out there, one thing I pointed out to you, it does the reporting and the logging off of your maintenance plans. It writes information out to your MSDB database every time a maintenance plan is executed. And you also are putting all those backup files and everything like that that are out on your file system, and then you need a way to be able to clean things up. So SQL Server in the maintenance plans gives you a couple of different cleanup tasks that you can be doing. It gives you the ability to clean up your backups that are physically located out in your file system. And here I'm kind of showing it uses an undocumented store procedure to do that. It cleans up the maintenance plan reports, which is those text files that get written out to your reporting and login location. And then also gives you the ability to clean up your history inside of your MSDB database. A lot of people don't clean up the history inside their MSDB database, and then as they have maintenance plans running, they find that their MSDB database is growing astronomically, and they don't understand why. And that's because they're not cleaning up the history and keeping that information clean inside their MSDB database. So here are some of the cleanup tasks and stuff that you can do. Basically, if you want to, this one goes through and it basically creates a backup of a database. And then it will come down through, and as soon as the backup is done, it'll go through and it'll do a maintenance plan cleanup. And it's basically saying, I want to delete the file, all the backup files that are located out in my backup file location, include first sub-level folders. This is really important to have checked if in your backup maintenance plan that you check create subfolders for each database. So you can appoint this basically at your backup folder, and then if you use the include first level subfolders, it'll go through to those individual folders that you created for each of your backups. And then here, this is definable for your business that you want to delete the files that are 4 weeks old, 2 weeks old. So this is really on your business process of how long you decided to keep your backups online on a physical physical disk before that's possibly then taken off to tape. And then that way you can actually use this to clean up so you don't have a whole bunch of backup files just sitting out in your file system taking up space. And then the next step that they have going on here is dealing with cleaning up the history. It basically says that inside of the MSDB database, I want you to delete all my backup and restore history, all my SQL Server agent jobs history. So if you have a whole bunch of jobs that are running on your SQL Server, those create records inside of the MSDB database as well on when they were executed, were they successful or not. And then also your maintenance plan history. And then here you can set this again for your business, whether you want it to be 4 weeks, a year, whatever makes sense from your business perspective of how much information that you want to be able to keep available in your MSDB database to find out the success and failures of things. And then the last task and stuff in here, it actually will do the maintenance plan text report. This is your logging and your reporting that is basically, that it says, set up off of this button right up here inside of a SQL Server. So it'll go out to that folder location, and it'll basically tell it, all text files. In case there's any subfolders that are created, go ahead and check that button as well. And then basically you can decide how many of those reporting and log files that you want to keep on the server at one time, and then you just set this to the variable, whether it be 4 weeks, 3 days, whatever. So that's an example and stuff of how people use the cleanup tasks. And again, they have, if they do indexes, they basically have their index text rebuild, and then they do their history cleanup and their maintenance cleanup. So some people just choose to put it in every single subplan and every single maintenance plan that they have to make sure that things are being kept clean. But if you think about it, if you have this for every single transaction log backup that you do, those cleanup tasks are going to be executed every single time. Like if you have your transaction logs running every hour those cleanup tasks are going to be running. And that may not be, exactly what you want to have going on as, for keeping your history. So this is an example plan and stuff of, cleans up the tasks as an individual plan. So you can actually just create a maintenance plan that runs like every Sunday that goes through and it cleans up all your history information inside of your MSDB database. It cleans up all of your backup files on a weekly basis. It cleans up all your text files and stuff on a weekly basis, your transaction log backups on a weekly basis. This is really something for you to play with to figure out what works best in your situation of when you need to clean the files up. Inside of here, I'm going to show this just because it gives you the ability to do this, but it's kind of one of the things is you actually have a shrink database task inside of your maintenance plans. It gives you the ability to do it, but should you? That's always the question, because you always hear, you never shrink your databases unless you absolutely have to. You don't want to really do that on a regular basis unless there's a business reason for it. And SQL Server also gives you the ability to run a SQL Server agent job as well. It gives you the flexibility to basically kick off a job inside of a maintenance plan. So if you know that you need to run all these steps to clean things up, and then you want your data transfer job that you have scheduled inside of SQL Server to run, it gives you the ability to actually call a job that's already scheduled and stuff on your server via a maintenance plan. Okay, so the last of the demos and everything is showing the shrink database task. As I said, it gives you to be able to do it. As you see down here, you have shrink database task. Highly recommend that you really decide from a business need whether or not you actually need to do this or not. But if for some reason that you do, you have the ability to do it. You can actually go out here and say, okay, I want to shrink all my databases when it grows beyond 50 megs and only leave me, 10% free space. And whether or not you want the space to be freed up to the operating system or not. This is kind of one of the things. If Microsoft gives you the ability to do it, but the question is whether or not you really should or you shouldn't. I would not recommend doing this on a regular basis unless you have a specific need that you know that every week you're inserting 10,000 records inside of your SQL Server, but then you know that you're going to be deleting them the very next day and you're definitely low on space. You have the ability to do it. just really use it with caution, is what I have to say. And then the other items that it can kind of give you is, again, running a SQL Server agent job. And all I did is actually go over here and grab the task that is over here on the left-hand side for running a SQL Server agent job task. And then here you can actually see it's showing all the different jobs that I have scheduled on my SQL Server, and all you have to do is basically select which one that you want to do, and you can say OK. Then you have the ability to be able to do it. So one thing also is putting things all together. Let me go ahead and show you guys that demo as well. So here I have basically a backup hand to kind of put all the different things that we talked with in order. Basically, I have a maintenance plan I'll go through. It'll truncate some data inside of a database, insert some data back into the table, everything like that. Then I chose to basically add another task. One thing I really didn't talk about is these control arrows and stuff like that. So when you go through and you drop something in here, if you want to say, okay, after my update stats, I want to be able to execute this, you just click on the link and drag it over and stuff to the next step inside of it. You can add some logic flow here. So if you highlight the link, if you right-click on it, you can basically do, on success, run this next task. On failure, it'll turn to red. I want to run this task. That's a good thing if you want to customize like an email script that you're going to send to yourself if the maintenance plan fails. You can do it that way. Or you can also choose the third item, which on completion. So it doesn't matter if this first step succeeds or fails, I still want to run this next task. So it works a lot like your SSIS environment, and your maintenance plans are kind of built upon that, but you don't have all the functionality that you'd get if you actually created something in SSIS. So in this package, so I load a large amount of data, and because I know I just loaded a large amount of data, I'm choosing to go ahead and rebuild my indexes and stuff on the table. And then I have some other ones that on a specific table, I just want to do the column statistics only, update those, because I have special column statistics that have been defined upon the table that I just loaded a large amount of data to, and I want to actually update my statistics for that. So that's kind of putting things all together. So really the question kind of comes down to with the maintenance plans, they're very easy to use on smaller systems, and they get the job done. And you at least know that you're taking care of your SQL Server health. But in the larger systems, you may want to write more custom SQL scripts and have your maintenance plans execute those. But there even then becomes the limitation that there's sometimes you cannot even get it to the level that you want to do, so you don't actually want to use maintenance plans. But pretty much with the ability to be able to write your T-SQL scripts, you have the ability to be able to customize almost anything that you needed to have done. And just kind of a summary, routine tasks to help you keep your database happy. Really for maintenance plans, follow the KISS method. Keep it simple. You can make them as complex as you want, or you can make them as simple as you want. And then always remember to clean up your history. As I said, I've seen that really hurt some people and stuff when they don't make sure that their history is being cleaned up inside of their system. Couple of resources and stuff for you. Brad McGehee has like a 250-page free paper out there on completely customizing and writing your maintenance plans. So that's something that you're interested in. And Ola actually has a complete thing of how to go through and not use SQL Server maintenance plans, but to still do all the different maintenance inside of your SQL servers. So if you guys need to contact me at all, you can reach me at kmeadows@extevia.com. And we also have the blogs and stuff out on Extevia at blogs.extevia.com.
Kat, great job. Thank you for the presentation and all the time preparing to do it. We don't have any questions so far. I did send out a message via chat to let folks know that they can ask questions, and we haven't had any come in, which is probably a tribute to the comprehensive nature of what you presented, and a great audience, of course. But for attendees, if you do have any questions, go ahead and submit those now. We have about 9 minutes to the top of the hour, and if no questions come in, we can wrap up early. And Kat, I take a little risk here to put you on the spot, but when you've done this live at some of the events that you've presented this at, were there any questions that came up that you remember people asking as you went through the presentation?
The main questions and stuff like that is, why Microsoft would give you the ability to do these things and not even follow their own best practices. But I think it's also because the Microsoft gives you the flexibility to be able to write those transact SQL statements and schedule those inside of your maintenance plans. So they definitely have this here, this ability here to at least get you doing the basic maintenance that you should be doing on your databases, but they also recognize that you need to be able to customize depending on the complexity of your environment.
Got it. Okay. We'll give folks a few more minutes here to ask a question while we're waiting for that, if there are questions. Just a reminder, or actually maybe some new information, Kat mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, our virtual DBA service. Kat's part of the virtual DBA team. And we have a variety of service plans that can really be customized. We have several levels of service plans that we offer, but they can be customized to fit whatever your needs are. Those are all remote service plans, but we also have an on-site offering where we can provide a full-time DBA that also is backed up by the team at Extivia. So this webinar comes out of a team of folks that are experts in the area and work with some a lot of companies across the country. So to find out more about that, again, you can go to extivia.com. You can also go to our virtual DBA website, which is virtual-dba.com, and there's a bunch of information on both sites that both educational, maybe learn a few things, but also give you some information about the services where we may be able to team up and help you. So, Kat, looks like you covered everything, and we're not getting any questions coming in, so I think we can go ahead and wrap up. One more note, we have recorded this presentation, and also, Kat, I'm going to ask you to send over the PowerPoint. I'll turn that into a PDF, and we'll provide that on the same page that the webinar recording is on. So if you want to come back and review this again, just give us a day or two to process the recording. We'll have it up on the site, and then additionally, we'll have a download of the PDF. And actually, let me just check here. We do have one question that came in. The question is, could you go back to the reference slide for the blog and contact info? So actually that,
sure.
I think just the previous slide.
Yeah.
There we go. So we'll actually just leave that up as we wrap up the webinar. We'll go ahead and pause the webinar and put everybody on mute as we wrap up here. But we'll leave the screen up as people are exiting so you can jot down any of that contact info. And again, just as a backup, extivia.com should provide all this information, both a link to the blog and our contact page to get a hold of us. So Kat, thank you. I know you put a lot of energy and time into putting this together, and I think on behalf of our audience want to share our gratitude, and we hope to have you come back and share with us again.
All right, well, thank you for having me.